So I was just sitting there working on a video about the 30th anniversary of Pokemon and how that it wasn't that interesting when something interesting came across my screen. Holy shit, we're getting Ocarina of Time remake. Yeah, so let's be honest. The Nintendo Direct itself last week was just. It's okay. I mean, Nintendo really, every so often, just doesn't give me much that I'm really to get excited about. There's games that look fun, but I don't have the people who I would play those games with. And let's be honest, a lot of the games that come on other consoles, I'd rather play on another console. But, and you know, Pocopio update, whatever, expansion. We'll get to that when I talk about the 30th anniversary. But no, because, like, I thought Nintendo forgot about Zelda. It's the 40th anniversary, and I thought they forgot. We're getting an Ocarina of Time remake. We're going to talk about this a lot. Guys, before we get too far, my name's Yuki the Geekimist. You can just call me Yuki for simplicity's sake. I'm a VTuber. I love Pokemon, anime, gaming. Zelda is one of my favorite franchises. Now, Ocarina of Time's not my favorite. Personally, I'm partial to Minish Cap. But, I'll be honest, this is really exciting. So, before we really talk about this game in depth, we do need to have some deeper discussions about, well, the rest of the franchise, if you know what I'm talking about. But, let's get into a very bold statement. Okay, so that statement is that Ocarina of Time is a masterpiece. And that can't be understated. Ocarina of Time is a masterpiece. Anyone who debates that or thinks that, oh, Ocarina of Time's not that great, you rather have never played the game, you rather can't control the game, so you just complain about it because you haven't actually played it, or you're a non-Nintendo player and you're here just to be what non-Nintendo players always do, here just to be wishy-washy. And your opinions are invalidated right away. So, let's talk about Ocarina of Time. As we said, it's a masterpiece. Beautiful game. Story of a young boy, Link, doesn't have a fairy, gets a fairy, and goes on a world-trotting adventure to help Princess Zelda, the mysterious Sheik, and of course, going around trying to stop Ganondorf from obtaining the power of the trying to obtain the Triforce, both in the present and eventually into the future, using the powerful Ocarina of Time. And of course, it's a masterpiece, beautifully made. Masterpieces, in my opinion, should never be remade. There are 4 games that I deem are masterpieces: Ocarina of Time, Resident Evil 4, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and of course, Halo 3. 3 masterpieces that shouldn't be touched. And for the most part, they haven't. There's been some HD stuff. Modders have gone to town on Melee. And then, of course, Capcom did touch Resident Evil 4, admittedly. And the remake is... it's good. I would still say I prefer the original personally, but if we have to really look at it, for the most part, masterpieces don't need remade. Thus, my mixed feelings on the idea of remaking Ocarina of Time. This is a huge undertaking. And for this game for a remake to be announced and released in the same year, from June to potentially October, November, or December this year, that's a crazy time span. And I don't know how long they've been working on this. It's hard to say if directly after Tears of the Kingdom of development started on this, or is this a side project along with the next big Zelda game? We really don't know. So I want to have several things that I'm concerned about to really bring up about this, because let's be honest. And I'll say this out loud with no jokes, no hypocrisy. I think if this game fails, like if this game gets hated by Zelda fans, Nintendo people in general, and it really doesn't perform well, maybe Nintendo should just send over everything. If you can't remake your most best game of all time, and at the very least be loved, I'm sorry, maybe it's just time to pack up camp. So we're going to talk about my deeper points and, figure out what I'm worried about with each of the different points of this game. So my first big discussion point are controls. Mind you, the original, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was designed for the N64, and with that has a very different control schemes compared to modern Zeldas. Even the Twilight Princess on the GameCube has a more traditional control scheme style because the GameCube controller itself isn't completely different than the modern day control scheme. But mind you, we're in a very different era of gaming. And honestly, some control schemes and some combat related stuff should be more modernized. And just comparing the two controllers in general, it's time for a little bit of updating. Now, I'm not going so far as saying that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom controls should be the desired usability. I would honestly say I'd be more accustomed to, well, let's touch upon that Twilight Princess thing I brought up earlier. Mind you, Twilight Princess has the hero shade, who is the fallen hero of time. It would make, it'd make more sense if, since we're learning combat from him in Twilight Princess, that the Ocarina Time Link would play similar to that kind of combat style. Thus, I'd say maybe controlling and combat's traversal should be more accustomed to that Twilight Princess playability. I'm not saying Tears of the Kingdom. I don't want us to go that far to that kind of control scheme because I think it's unnecessary. I think we're just fine enough keeping the game similar to how it should be. Now, mind you, there should be preserving the old playstyle and puzzle solving. I'm not saying to completely ditch Ocarina of Time's control scheme, but it should be updated for a more modern audience who maybe did grow up on the Switch with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Mind you, we can't just make a game that is just for the N64 fans. This game needs to be playable for more people than just the original people who played the games back in the day. That's just what I would say. So another big portion about this is also, what about the lore and the story of Ocarina of Time? How much do we preserve and how much do we update for the new game? Personally, I say with the people who I've talked about this with, a lot of people have a similar mentality. And you can't just sell people the same game one for one. The story does need slightly updated or potentially have some stuff added to the story. But a big thing is we cannot change and delete portions of the original story. We don't need to be Final Fantasy VII adding a bunch of extra stuff to the game so ridiculous that the original game is deleted, but we can't just delete portions of the story to replace them with something that didn't happen in the original game. We can do the original story, but we need the extra content added on top of it. Additionally, does there need to be some lore change because of titles that have come out after the original Zelda Ocarina of Time? And that's a good question. Do we need to change some of the lore? And I'd say not necessarily. Now, I will say inscriptions and some things that you might see on the background, such as on statues, maybe engravings at certain locations, can be updated to maybe fit closer to the modern day lore. And I'm sure Zeltic will probably spend hours analyzing every single rune and everything he finds. But I think as long as you don't touch the original story, update the lore enough where it's not destroying the original canonicity of Ocarina of Time, I say the remake can play with the lore. Play with it, but respect it. And at least that's my own 2 cents. My next point is, let's talk about map and traversal. Let's state it right here, right now. We do not need a Breath of the Wild size map for Ocarina of Time. We don't need that. We don't need to overinflate this map area. One thing we need to do is we need to preserve that original map and its locations. We maybe can add an area or 2, but we do not need to overinflate the size of this map. I mean, listen, the original map is beautifully made. The lore itself fits the size of the map world, and the game works just fine as is. Adding too much to Ocarina of Time could just make it feel like a Breath of the Wild clone, and that's not how it should be. It's supposed to be the other way around. You're supposed to say Breath of the Wild is an Ocarina of Time clone. You're not supposed to reverse it around. So we need to be careful switching these two around, or we do fall into the weird potential of having these two games lose our identity because we're going both directions. Listen, I love the idea of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom having these huge worlds and maps to explore. The original Breath of the Wild map, listen, I explored it. I found all the Croc seeds. Tears of the Kingdom, I explored the sky. I explored the ground. But I don't have a feeling of doing that when it comes to Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is not Breath of the Wild. We need to do that, keep that idea when it comes to the maps. My buddy did say there was a rumor about there being cave systems that could be added to the game to expand out the world of Breath of the Wild, and that's fine. I'm fine with that idea. That is a good way to make the world feel bigger without having to necessarily make the game feel too big. At least that's my own personal opinion. But, of course, let's get to our next point about the remake. So, yeah, let's talk about voice acting in Zelda games. Now, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, and all the Hyrule Warrior games have added in voice acting into Zelda. Meaning that we are getting used to the idea of Zelda games having voice actings. But the question is, a legacy game like Ocarina of Time that originally had the more N64 talks, which was a small grunt that was similar to what the characters were supposed to sound like, along with the audio line saying what they said, was more accustomed to how N64 talking worked. You did have stuff like the Rareware where they had a voice line like which was more representative how voice acting used to work in their games. But with Zelda game, with Ocarina of Time, it really didn't work that way. And the question is, do you add voice acting to Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake? And personally, I don't think you should. The original one the original one didn't. And this is supposed to be a representative of the classic Zelda games. And I think that's kind of a key thing. This is supposed to be a classic Zelda remake. This isn't a, hey, we're making our own new game from the ground up to feel like old Zelda games. No, this is a classic Zelda game. Personally, I don't think you should touch it. You should leave it alone. Don't touch it. Don't do it. It's a mistake. And if Zelda does do... Now, mind you, what if Nintendo does do voice acting? If they do voice acting, do not have any of the original voice actors from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom be the same character represent ideas. Like, don't have Daruk's voice actor come back to voice a character in, let's say, Ocarina of Time, one of the Gorons. Don't have, Zelda's voice actress come up and become a young Zelda / Sheik and all that. You need new voice actors if you are going to do voice acting. Don't just reuse the same voice cast. I get it. These are different characters from different generations, and they could have similar voice acting, but you shouldn't here. You shouldn't cross over voices. You should have a brand new cast if you do choose to do voice acting. Personally, I don't think they should. No. No, no. No, 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 no. Do not that. Do not. Do. No, 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 not. But, no, I mean, that's the thing is, this game needs to feel like an original Zelda game. It's kind of what I think people missed. A lot of people complain about Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom because they are so much not how Zelda games used to work. You need to maintain the original dungeons, you need to retain certain things. And unfortunately, voice acting, I feel, was a major change that changes how Zelda games work. There's a reason why it's so easy to name your character in the original Zelda games, because guess what? The characters can say the name Link without changing it. But when you name yourself Big Booty Bitch as your character to play Ocarina of Time on in the original, guess what? It doesn't matter if the voice actor can't say that, because it's not a voice actor. It's your imagination. My awesome Zelda-loving Ocarina of Time's best game friend of all time said she's been playing this game for so long that she has an imagination of how these characters sounds. And if you come in with voice acting, you kind of replace that old imagination and replace it with something completely different. And that's a key. Maybe it's better we have an imagination when it comes to this voice acting. And maybe if you do want to have some voice acting, maybe perhaps Navi or the Owl, that's fine. But maybe don't have everyone talking their heads off. On to the next point. And let's say it, the Master Sword shouldn't break. The Master Sword shouldn't run out of power. The Master Sword should not break. That goes to say, durability needs to not be in this remake. It needs to take itself out the door and walk away. Go. We don't like you. We don't want durability back in our games. Mind you, Zelda was fine before durability became a thing. Realism didn't affect the other games. There was no one who played Link's Awakening and said, "Oh my god, the shield's not breaking. Oh my god, the shield's not breaking, Martha. Go call Nintendo. I want to sue because guess what? The shield's not breaking." There was no one who said that. No one said that. No one cared that there was that swords didn't break. People didn't care that the wooden sword you started the game out with didn't break after you hit about 5 enemies. No one cared back in the day. And now everybody wants to be realistic with weapons and degradation. No! Stop it. Go get some help. Now, okay, fine. I'll add you. I'll one-up you. My friend had a fantastic idea. Same crazy fan we talked about with the other segment. She said, guess what? If we're going to do durability, guess what? Maybe have that as a Master Quest option. I mean, imagine this. Harder difficulty and weapons have durability, just like Breath of the Wild. But for the base game, guess what? No. Base game, sorry, I broke my model's neck. No durability, no weapons breaking. The boomerang shouldn't just disappear and miss its mark. The boomerang should throw and come back to my hand. God, imagine if Breath of the Wild had the fucking hook shot. Imagine if the hook shot broke every 10 times you used it. No. And I know, some of you are going to say, oh my god, but what about difficulty? What about realism? It's Ocarina of Time. Guess what? Ocarina of Time was fine and perfect and a masterpiece. And guess what? It didn't have realism. Take that, modern day journalism. Your stupid modern day game politics weren't important. Go away. We don't like you. Get out of my theater, bitch. Sorry, sorry, durability just does something to my brain. Okay, on to the next point before I lose my mind. Okay, let's calm down. Calm down, me. Calm down. Let's talk about something that you really haven't heard people talk about, and that's, well, the somewhat realistic look of the game. A lot of people are concerned that Ocarina of Time is going to go for a more realistic looking Zelda look. People are worried that this game's going to go more realism looking, and I think that's a little presumptuous. Because I look at this and I really don't see the hyper realism here. The game looks good. The game looks crisp. The game does look like it's showing smaller details than the original games could have. But I don't really think this means the game is trying to go overboard. I just think this game is trying to present a certain aesthetic to the games. I think people who are really worried about this are just being hyper worried about, small minute details. Stuff like fireflies showing up, that's not really a big issue. Link looking like he's wearing a more realistic kind of clothing versus what we're used to. I think that's nothing to really get yourself overblown about. I mean, hell, there's even a potential chance that maybe Link's not going to wear the iconic green tunic. And even if that's true, I do think cosmetically it's a bad idea. But it's not a huge problem if we make the game feel more real. Sorry, mind you, I think that the game will show us will show us the tunic. I'm just saying, I think people are getting over hyper analytical about the graphic and art style and are overblowing some things about the game. I think this is just a worrywart mentality, and I think we should calm down a little bit. And on to my final point. A lot of people want this game to have several things. My buddy brought up this fantastic idea with the fairies and ways of upgrading the fairies to be a little bit more helpful on the journey. Maybe give out hints that maybe Zelda fans could really use to help out. Especially with the water temple. Oh my god, the water temple. Oh no, not the water temple. The boots, the water levels. Oh no, PTSD. Oh no. Not the PTSD. Oh no, not that. But the water temple. Oh no. But let's be real. This game could do a lot. Upgrading the fairies, even maybe making Navi a little bit more useful outside of just being the hey, look, listen, hey, look, listen, hey, look, listen. Sorry, something eternal woke up there, but no, I mean, honestly, I think that there's a lot of systems that could be added into this game to make it stand out from the original. But I'm going to say one thing, and I'm going to say this here. I'm excited. I'm a huge Zelda fan. I haven't made any Zelda content on this channel yet, and it's just because, really, I haven't had a good inspiration. By the time I started my channel out, Tears of the Kingdom had already been out for a while. Can you believe it's been over 3 years? See, I remember playing with my buddy. Sorry, this is a side tangent. I remember going over to my buddy's place. I had played the tutorial area and got up to the, got the first tower unlocked, and then I went over to their place. And man, I was watching them. She failed to make a boat. She made Sticky Friend. She lost the boat that she needed to get across the one tutorial area, and also she discovered that if you combine a ruby with a shield, that you don't have to do any of the hot food stuff. And gosh darn, I'm still pretty mad about that all these years later that she figured that out on the first go. But no, seriously, I mean, there is just lots of stuff that you can do with this game. This game can be really fantastic and awaken a lot of memories. But I really want to start covering Zelda stuff on the channel. I just need a good inspiration of what to work on next. Maybe I'll do a video on Minish Cap, because I love that game. But when Ocarina of Time comes out, I plan on doing a big video on this. I'm hoping it's a good video. I'm really hoping. Price point, we don't know yet. More details about the game, we don't know yet. We really don't have much about the game. It's a fact that it's coming out now, soon. Like, October, November, maybe, depending if man, could Ocarina of Time and go after GTA 6? That's a tough one. Maybe December, honestly, right before the holiday season. It's so hard to say. It's exciting, though. It's so exciting. And while I'm sitting here impatiently waiting for Wind and Waves, I'm happy I want to have something that I hope I can dump 500 hours into, like I have Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And with that, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Tell me, how much do you like Ocarina of Time, and are you excited for the next game? And also, you know, if you have any Zelda videos or any ideas you want me to cover related to Zelda games, let me know. Because, well, my Pokemon's kind of disappointing me at the moment, and I need a small break. Me and Pokemon need a break. We need to see other people while I deal with the long time of nothing content drought that we're about to go through with Pokemon. And, hey, you know what? Zelda sounds like a fancy lady to add back into my life. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. I am the Geekimist. Geek out.